Hi there, everyone. I'm Dan Weedin. Welcome to the July 21st edition, July 21st, 2014 edition of Weedin Unleashed. I had a little bit of a snafu. When I set up the event, I set it up in Google as an event instead of as a Hangout on air, and so I realized that it needs to be a Hangout on air for me to be doing this, and so I'm a little bit late on letting some of you know. My apologies for that. We are now officially at noon Pacific Standard Time, and as we are wont to do on a weekly basis, I'm here chatting with you a little bit about some of the concepts, topics, strategies, best practices that I think will help you to unleash your maximum potential in your career and to enrich your life. So a few housekeeping notes. Number one, this is live. This is a live broadcast on Google, so you never know when something strange might happen. It'll be captured here immediately. To that point, it's also recorded. You can go to my website, danweedin.tv, which goes directly into my YouTube channel, danweedin.tv, and you'll see all of the past Weedin Unleashed video recordings. This one will be on there shortly after we're done here. You get to see all of those in their entirety. You can play them back to back to back if you want. But anyway, so this gets automatically recorded, and I'm doing this every week, or just about every week unless I'm traveling. We will be doing a Weedin Unleashed based on my extra points topic for that morning. That's my weekly newsletter. And we're going to talk a little bit about that one today, but we'll be doing this every Monday at noon Pacific time, and I'm glad that you're here joining me wherever you are. That sounds like kind of a Vin Scullyism for those of you who are Dodgers fans, and Vin Scully would always say, thank you for joining us wherever you are. I'm saying the same, so wherever and whenever, if you're watching this later on, I want to thank you for that as well. So we'll dive right in here and talk a little bit about my topic for today's extra points. And the topic was called the invisible fence. Now, as all of you know, probably by now, I have two Jack Russell Terriers. And the one that may be most familiar to you is Captain Jack. And see, Captain Jack and Bella, his cohort and partner in crime, she is not the runner that Captain Jack is. In fact, if I let her out the door unleashed, she would go out and check things out. But if I sternly said to her, hey, come on back, she would, because she's not one who likes to disappoint. Captain Jack would just keep running. He's the adventurous one. He would be out and running. So we don't have a backyard per se. We do have a backyard, but it's unfenced. It backs up to a green belt. And so whenever we take the dogs out, they go out leashed. We go out for walks and we go out and hang out, but they're always leashed because Captain Jack is a runner. So what happens is that I've got many friends who say, hey, Dan, we have an invisible fence, and it works great for our dogs. We have this collar, and it's kind of a shock therapy or shock treatment thing. They go anywhere near the fence, they get shocked, and they learn that that's not a place to go, and they're smart, and they don't go there anymore. And that's great. I think it's great for most dogs. However, I don't think it would work for Captain Jack. And in fact, I don't think it works for beagles either, because I spoke to my brother, whose beagle got away going through an invisible fence. He just did what I think Captain Jack would do as well. I think Captain Jack would realize that this is kind of a weird collar, and every time he got near the fence, this thing would go off and cause him some pain. Jack Russell Terriers are pretty sharp themselves, and I think Captain Jack would realize, you know what? The pain is brief and it's temporary. And if I can get past that initial surge, I'm in the free. There's no more pain. I'm going to go out and I'm going to see the world, to experience my adventures, to live unleashed, which is what he would love to do. So he's looking at this saying, yeah, I could stay here. I could be comfortable. I could I feel good here. I'm comfortable. I don't have to go out and do anything else. But he says I want to. He goes, I know the pain is temporary. I know it's brief. I'm going to make the dash through, and I'm going to go out and run through it. And I think Captain Jack has a good idea on that. And here's why. We humans are pretty good at building our own invisible fence. Here's what I mean. You know, link by link, we can build this invisible fence of our own to keep us in our own yard. And the links are fear of rejection. Oh, I forgot to put the questions and answers up. Let me put that up there. Hope you can still see me. Okay, questions and answers up. My apologies. The links that we put up in our invisible fence are fear of rejection, fear of failure, anxiety over the past or anxiety over the future. You know, what are people going to say? What if this bad thing happens? I don't think I'm good enough. These are all links. A lot of it is self-talk. A lot of it is fear. A lot of it is just those anxieties that we as humans place on ourselves. And so this invisible fence goes up around us, and we say, you know, I feel comfortable. I feel secure. I don't have to worry about anything. I'm just going to stay in my yard, and I've built this fence, and I've got this collar around my neck that's keeping me here. The problem is that then we get stuck, we get bored, we get put in what I've called the success trap, or what Alan Weiss, I've learned from Alan, is called the success trap. We just stay in place, and we never go out, and we're never truly able to maximize our talents, to live some of the adventures that we dream about, because we become so settled in our own yard that we don't want to leave. I'm telling you, it's time to break that invisible fence. As Captain Jack knows with the dog's invisible fence, the pain is temporary and it's brief. Yes, for us, there may be some pain associated with breaking through our invisible fence. We may be going outside our comfort zone. We may be rejected. We may have people say, oh, you're crazy to do that. We may have a lot of anxiety over taking some risk, over making changes. But the pain is temporary and it's brief, just like it is with dogs. Think about if you were in a situation that you wanted to change jobs. You may be at a point in your career where you're in your late 40s, early 50s, and you're not happy with where your job is, and you're ready to try something else. Now here's the invisible links you put up. Well, I'm satisfied with what I'm making. I may not be having fun, but it's income that I know is coming in, and I'm at a stage of my life that I need to have the income. I'm also a little bit worried about what others might say, what my peers might say. What might they say? Why are you leaving a good job to go try some other new venture? So you can, you know, or you might say, you know what? I'm concerned. I don't have a college education, or I don't have a master's degree, or maybe I don't have that experience that everybody's looking for. They don't want me. So it's a lot of this type of self-talk. It's fear. It's anxiety. And so link by link, you build this invisible fence, and so you stay in a job that you hate or you don't like, or is now boring to you. Maybe it was great once, now it's boring to you, and so you stay there. And then one day you look back and say, gee, I wonder what would have happened if. Taking that leap is really important. You know, you don't want to be negligent, you don't want to be reckless, but you also want to see if there is something out there that will stretch you. So the leap through some initial pain. Maybe you do get rejected. Maybe your friends do make you feel bad. Maybe you get even a little bit depressed and it hurts, and it's like, I hate rejection, and nobody wants to hire me, and did I make a mistake? But then at some point, whatever it is that you're going to do will come through. If you persevere, and if you have good self-talk, and if you really maximize those talents and skill levels that you have, you get help when you need help. When they do come through, then you've got a new adventure, you've got new experiences, and you're stretching yourself, and you're growing, and you're happy because you're trying new things and you're challenged. So I know, I use that example because I know several people who have gone through that. Heck, I did that about 9 years ago. I was in a very comfortable job, one that I'd been really doing for 16, 17 years. And I could have kept on doing it, but I was ready for a change. And for a while I didn't know what it was, but I was ready for it. And the initial pain of going out and starting your own practice, there's a lot of money that comes out in the beginning when you're starting your own business. You entrepreneurs out there know that. And so that pain is temporary, it's brief, but sometimes I don't think we are willing to trust that it is, that we're concerned that it's fatal. And rarely is it fatal unless you're doing something kind of crazy. Rarely would it be fatal. It just might hurt for a little bit, but in the end, you know that old axiom: no risk, no reward. No pain, no gain. That applies a lot to athletics, but or to exercising and getting fit and fitness, but it also applies to our life as well. So I've been rambling on about this for about 10 minutes. I want to open this up to you. I see we've got some viewers out there. I would love, and I know I also hear we have people who can also come in via not necessarily online, but they could be even driving around or hook it into their computers and listen. So welcome anybody who's doing that. But if you are available to ask questions, this is a good time to ask a question. If you'd like to add a commentary to what we just talked about regarding the invisible fence, now would be a really good time to do that as well. Go ahead, and you should have a chat box over on your right-hand side. I'll see those as they come in. I'll keep talking as that goes on. So again, it's interesting as I think about, I thought about the invisible fence theory, and I thought about what we do to ourselves as adults, and what we do to create our own invisible fence. Just made me think a little bit about, again, how different dogs react to it. Now, the dogs that don't go through the invisible fence doesn't mean that they're dumb or they're not as smart. But what it does mean is that they become settled somehow in between, and they don't have the knowledge on how to get out. Dave, thank you very much. He said he really likes the invisible fence metaphor. Appreciate that. By the way, Dave, and for everybody else, this popped up in my head because I'm writing a chapter for my new book, Unleashed, that's coming out next year. This was the topic. And as I was writing it at the end of last week, I thought, hey, maybe this is a good opportunity to talk about it on Extra Points. So I did that. But you know what? Those dogs, they need guidance. And sometimes that's what's lacking for us, is we don't know how to do it. We say, okay, we make this leap. We go through the barrier. What kind of help do we need? We don't know where to go, and we don't know where to get the guidance. That's important too, and we've talked in the past of the importance of coaches and mentors and accountability partners. This is all part of it. Dave also wrote down, perhaps it is an invisible force that undermines us as individuals. Great point, Dave. It's that invisible force that ends up kind of being that speed bump that we trip over. And in my opinion, and you guys let me know if you feel, in my opinion, those are always self-imposed. Anybody who's done any work in psychology, maybe when they were in college, you hear about the self-fulfilling prophecy. Well, these, I think, are some invisible forces and some of our own self-limitations that we put out there and say, we can't do this. Again, maybe a big part of it is what kind of guidance do you need to get through there. Jack, he'll run through there whether he has guidance or not, but sometimes it's best, and I would say for us humans, I know that I needed some guidance. Now, I'd made the decision to run through the fence, but before I took off for the run, I found some guidance through a coach, a guy by the name of Scott Simmons. He was somebody who helped coach me into consulting, actually eventually introduced me to Alan Weiss. If it wasn't for him, I may have really hurt myself, or the pain might not have been so brief or so slight. He was able to help guide me through that, so that's an important part. But I think just making that decision that, you know what, I have more out there that's outside of my own yard, and I can stretch myself. And anytime you stretch yourself, there's some initial pain. that shock on the collar is going to happen, because that invisible force that Dave just mentions, maybe that's the shock. I like that, Dave. Maybe that invisible force is also the shock. Because we put up the fence, if there's no shock, big deal. We go through something invisible. But maybe it's that invisible force of the shock that says, "Oh no, that hurts. I'm not gonna go back in." So that's an important aspect. Thank you for bringing that up. I see we've got an extra viewer here. We've got several people here. This is your opportunity to join in the conversation. Dave is a regular. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for doing that. It's always great to get in some extra thoughts on topics that we talk about, because I have my point of view. I like to share it with you, but I also get some really great feedback from all of you. So anybody else who wants to come in and ask questions, bring up some commentary, this is your time. I'll do a very quick note as we're moving on through here. Again, this is Weedin Unleashed. For any of you who are new watching this, I get this out on my blog and on my newsletter after the fact. So maybe you're watching this for the first time. I'll be doing this every Wednesday, noon Pacific. I'm in the Seattle area, so I live Pacific time thinking. For those of you out on the East Coast, you're at 3 o'clock. But we'll do this every Monday at noon Pacific. And the topic will more than likely be whatever my topic for Extra Points, my weekly quick newsletter that goes out. If it's something you're not receiving, go to dan@danweedin.com and you can click on the newsletter and you can go to Extra Points and subscribe to that. And then we'll spend somewhere between 15, 20, up to 30 minutes discussing it. And hopefully we continue to grow this and people are enjoying it. So I haven't seen anything else come in. I do appreciate Dave for chiming in a little bit. I'll do a quick recap and then we'll call it a day if that's the way it goes. So the recap is this. Dogs, many dogs are great inside an invisible fence because they are not willing to go outside of it. They've been trained, sometimes as we've been trained, to be good employees, good parents, good spouses, and we stay inside our yard. And by the way, just because you go outside doesn't mean you're not good. But we're kind of trained culturally to kind of fit inside this box, to fit inside of our yard and not try to expand. And so some of us get very safe, feel very safe there. You know what? I've got to jump out here. I did have Kelly just noted something here. She said, I'm going, two things. Dave said perhaps it's an imaginary force. He said invisible first. Could be an imaginary force. I like that. I'm going to have to do some thinking on that, Dave. Kelly put up, I'm going through the process of not putting up an invisible fence as I apply to jobs. Hey, you know what? That's great, Kelly. Thank you for sharing that. Looking for jobs, especially coming out of college. It's hard today. There's a lot of fences that are put up by employers, but I think there's even more fences put up by those applying because they may read into the requirements and it doesn't fit them perfectly even though the job looks great. Or they may be nervous about putting themselves out there for whatever reason. Those fences need to be burst through in order to land into that great job that could be actually your dream job. Kelly, thank you for sharing that with us. So kind of going along that phase, we as humans, whether we are just entering the workforce, maybe looking at, do we want to be in the workforce or do we want to be entrepreneurs, maybe starting our own business, who knows? What is it that we want to do? And then for a lot of us, where are you in your life now? What have you accomplished? And what are some of the things that you have yet to accomplish and have maybe dreamed about doing? And what are you doing to push that out there? Well, that little collar that they keep that causes that shock that Dave, I thought, hit on with the imaginary force, causes that shock. There's some initial pain and we recoil. I'm telling you to be like Captain Jack and understand that going outside of that fence is a good thing. Testing it, going out and finding out, getting some guidance, going out and really finding out what's out there for you. That imaginary fence is only holding you back from maximizing all that you can out of your talent and what you have to offer to others for value. So we are at about 12:20. This has been fun. In fact, I think it's going to be one of my favorite topics and something that I talk a little bit more about and write a little bit more about. If you want to read my blogs, you can go to Weedin360.com. That's WEEDIN 360.com. That's a free subscription. You can get that, comes right into your inbox. You can follow me on Twitter at Dan Weedin. You can also go get my newsletter, as I mentioned to you earlier. And I hope that you'll consider coming back here and joining us at this spot every Monday. If you reach out to me on Google at Dan Weedin, on Google+, I can put you into one of my circles so that you get a notification of this every week. So with that, it doesn't look like we have any more to add for today. I do thank both Dave and Kelly for being part of the conversation. I hope that you'll come back and join us, or at least be watching the next one when it's recorded. However you do, I hope that this continues to be something of value to you. This is Dan Weedin. Thank you for joining us today. Keep out of that invisible fence mentality. Break through the yard. Get out there. Be unleashed. And I will look forward to seeing you next week at this same time. Take care. Ciao.